Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Friday, December 20th. If you were just tuning in, we just finished going over the Thursday night football game that had massive playoff implications between the Chargers and the Broncos. That saw the Chargers win 34-27. In this segment, we get into our Week 16 NFL Power Rankings. I want to preface this with that it has not changed based on Thursday night's result. This is still from after last week's slate of games. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday, December 20th. But like I was saying, we're going to get into the NFL Power Rankings for Week 16 of the NFL season. It has been yet another crazy week, and as we reach the playoffs here, we're going to start to see a lot more changes in the rankings, but right here stays the same, right? At number 32, we have the New York Giants. This is just a case of my personal ideology, and I'm not saying that the Giants don't deserve to be the worst team in the NFL, because I'm pretty sure they are, but I've been saying it all season. I've been saying it for multiple seasons. If Tim Boyle comes into the game and plays meaningful snaps for your team, you are not playing real NFL football. He is a guy that should never see the field. I don't really care if he's a guy that's going to be a backup for your squad. That's fine. But if he sees meaningful playing time like he did for the Giants on Sunday, you are not a real NFL football team, and you automatically go to the bottom of the list. The Giants are at 32. At 31, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, another team with 2 wins fighting for that number 1 overall pick. This is a team led by Desmond Ridder, potentially Aiden O'Connell coming back later this week. We'll talk about all the quarterback changes in the next segment, but the Las Vegas Raiders, still a really bad team, right? We saw a couple of injuries go up against them, especially in that running back room. Sincere McCormick, a guy that was really starting to take off, not a guy that I think was really going to have a huge role, but a guy that was playing good football down the stretch for this team, goes down, is now out for this season. This is a Raiders team that just everything is going wrong right now. Maybe they can pull out a win against the Jaguars, although I'm not sure that's what they really want. At 30, we have the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, again, issues. Will Levis has officially been benched by this Titans team. They're not getting anything done offensively, at least as effectively as they want to. Lots of mistakes against a Bengals team that, honestly, if they played clean football against, probably could have won. They kept it close, especially with that bad Bengals defense. I think there's a chance that they could have won that game if they weren't turning the ball over too much. At 29, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? We just mentioned them. They get a game against the Raiders this week. Mac Jones doesn't look awful, but that's been against some bad teams, right? And that's not a huge positive for this Jags team. They're just trying to get past this season. Really, most of these teams at the bottom are just trying to throw in the towel, be done with this NFL season, and move on and prepare for the next one. 28 is the Bears. This is a weird team to go over, right? They've now lost 8 straight games, but they've been competitive in most of them. And I know last week was not a great example of being competitive in a game, losing 30-12 on Monday Night Football. But this is a Chicago Bears team that I think if they just get the recipe to click, if they get a coach that can play to Caleb Williams' strengths, who, by the way, Caleb gets a lot of hate because he's not been playing to number 1 overall pick level, but he's been playing good football, right? He dances around too much in the pocket. He had a play where he had his back facing the field, did a little hurdle. Not what you want to do there, right? That's when you just take off, get a couple yards. But he's still learning. He's a rookie. He's kind of shell-shocked behind that offensive line. It's awful. Everything is going wrong for this Bears team, and they've now lost 8 straight. They're at number 28. At 27, we have the Falcons, another team that has made a quarterback switch. Kirk Cousins was just not doing it. They escape with a victory against the Las Vegas Raiders, a game where Desmond Ridder outplayed Kirk Cousins. Not a good look for the Falcons. They make that switch. They didn't really have another choice, but that's not where you want to be if you're a team that considers themselves in the playoffs right now. They are just outside of it. They're one game out. They need to win one more than the Bucs in these last 3 games of the season. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't believe in this team, but they do have a pretty easy schedule. It's all going to come down to the Bucs. I like Michael Penix, though. I think that's a good move for them. At 26, we have the Patriots. Drake May, he's doing his thing. That defense is really bad. It is really bad. But this is a New England Patriots team that never really had much of a shot in this season. They weren't going out there to try and make the playoffs this year. I'd say overall it was a successful season. They found out that they have a guy that they can build around in Drake May, and that's all they wanted to find out this season. Patriots at 26. At 25, we have the Colts. I want to like this Colts team. I really do. Anthony Richardson is a guy that I really do like as a quarterback. He needs to develop just a little bit more as far as his decision making and timing, but a lot of unforced errors made by this Colts team, right? Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball at the 1 yard line, turning a touchdown into a touchback, a 14-point switch in that game. Right? This is an Indianapolis Colts team that just keeps shooting themselves in the foot. They had that trick play that didn't work, ended up being a pick six, scored that one as a fumble, by the way, when Adonai Mitchell threw it backwards and Nick Bonito intercepted the lateral, took it back to the house. This is a Colts team that, again, they've got so much potential, and they're not out of the playoffs yet. They've got an easy schedule down the stretch here, but they're just not it. They're going to get destroyed in the playoffs if they do find a way in. They're at 25. At 24, we have the Panthers. Last game was not a great example of what Bryce Young has been able to do all season long, but still, this is the Panthers team that is much improved. They fall a couple spots this week from where they were last week. Bryce Young and the Panthers are improving, and I think he bought himself another year. I don't think it's going to be you're the franchise guy moving forward now kind of year, but it is going to be a year where we take a look and we say, hey, you've got a shot. Go and earn it. Carolina Panthers are doing just fine. They're not winning games, but they're keeping them close, which is all you can really ask for a team that was not expected to do much this season. At 23, we have the Dallas Cowboys, right? They go out and get a big win against those Carolina Panthers last time out. Micah Parsons has completely transformed this defense. That defense that was one of the worst units in all of football early on in the season is now starting to figure it out. That pass rush is getting home. Granted, against some of the worst offensive lines in all of football, the Giants and the Panthers recently. Still, though, this is a Cowboys offense I'm a little bit worried about. I'm not ready to put them into any kind of do they have a chance conversations because they're just about eliminated from the playoffs at this point. Jets at 22. I've been really impressed by this Jets offense over the last couple of weeks. Aaron Rodgers seemingly has figured something out. Against the Dolphins, against the Jags, in their Miami little road trip down there, they went out and Aaron Rodgers played 2 really good games. Devontae Adams last week, almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was a huge game. This is what the Jets offense was supposed to look like all season long. I don't know what took them so long. I don't even know if it's sustainable. But 2 straight weeks of good Aaron Rodgers is something we haven't seen since he was with the Packers. So I'm starting to believe that this team can maybe turn it around down the stretch, keep Aaron Rodgers around next season. Maybe that's just a disaster in and of itself. Maybe it's better if they suck and Aaron Rodgers is gone. But this is where we are with the Jets. They've strung together a couple of good performances in a row. They're up to 22. 21, we have the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston is benched after 3 interceptions, 2 interceptions, 3 interceptions in his last 3 games, right? That is 8 interceptions over his last 3 games. Not a good look for the Browns. I don't like Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I don't think he's a great quarterback. We saw him come out and get absolutely destroyed in his spot starts last season against some good defenses, but still got absolutely destroyed. This is a Browns team that doesn't have that offensive upside without Jameis Winston, and I think they're about to fall in the next couple of weeks. At 20, we have the Saints. They have a big performance in the Superdome against a good Washington Commanders team. They're able to shut down the run. I know Tyler Bedaz wasn't there at center for the Washington Commanders, but still a great performance, a gutsy performance to nearly complete the huge comeback. I like going for two there. Obviously, it didn't work, so you're going to have some blowback. Some clock issues was the big thing there, but I was really impressed with this Saints team. They lose Alvin Kamara most likely for the season. Spencer Rattler's coming in to play quarterback. He led that comeback. I like it. This is a Saints team that still isn't very good, but they're kind of near that territory of best of the worst. At 19, we have the Dolphins. This is a team that just does not step up in the big moments. This is what we've been waiting on, right? Tua and the Dolphins. You can't blame the weather in this one. They were playing in a dome in Houston, right? And he puts a stinker out there on the field. 3 interceptions for a guy that generally doesn't turn the ball over. He couldn't get anything going. He had a stretch of 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in 3 straight weeks, right? And he goes into this game and he throws 3 interceptions, back-breaking interceptions. The Texans' offense didn't even play that good, right? You had CJ Stroud kind of struggling. The defense for the Dolphins was playing great, but Tua could not get anything going, and he has basically tanked this season for the Dolphins. The Dolphins still have a chance, an outside shot of making the playoffs, but they need a lot of help to get in at this point, and I think they're basically done. They got a tough game, a tough stretch coming up. They get the 49ers and then the Jets. One more team in there, but they need a win out, and I just don't see it happening. At number 18, we have the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers, I really like this team, right? I do. They're incredibly talented. They were unable to get anything going in the rain on Thursday Night Football last week, but they just need to figure it out a little bit. Another running back goes down for them. Isaac Guerrero is out for the season. He suffered a continual injury on his ankle. He came in and played injured last week. Maybe that was part of it. Brock Purdy needs to figure it out. They've got the receivers. They've got the weapons. I'm not sure if he's earned a contract this year, but that's a conversation for the end of the season. At 17, we have the Cardinals. I can't figure this team out. I really can't. I like this Cardinals team a lot. They were ranked in my top 10 at one point. That defense has played really good. Kyler Murray and that offense has been very inefficient. I need them to turn it around, and I need them to turn it around quickly. If they're going to make any kind of noise in the playoffs, they're still in that division race, just a game back of the division leaders. It's going to be a tight race down the stretch, though. We'll see. Bengals at 16 here. This is just going to be if their offense can beat their defense every single week. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a fun game. They actually have the inside track to the playoffs if they're able to tie the record. They're playing with desperation. They've won a couple in a row now. Not really great teams, Cowboys and the Titans, but still. If they can win out, they're going to be a team that you do not want to see in the playoffs. The defense minimally is starting to play better. They're getting some more turnovers. They're still giving up a lot of yards, but they are getting turnovers, some big plays, and that's really helping this team not lose these shootout games anymore. At 15, we have the Seahawks. We saw the difference of this team with and without Geno Smith. Sam Howell is fine. He'll play better than he did on Sunday Night Football if you give him another chance. But not a good look for Sam Howell and the Seattle Seahawks. We saw Geno Smith start to figure something out against a good Packers defense, but just a little bit too little, too late. The Seahawks have a tough schedule down the stretch. I think they can figure it out, but it's not going to be easy. 14 is the Houston Texans. This team won on the strength of their defense, and that's something that I think is huge. That's something they haven't had in a while. CJ Stroud not playing his best football right now, but Nico Collins, 2 touchdowns last week. Joe Mixon, very good at football. This is a Texans team that is already in the playoffs. They've clinched their division. I want to see them string a couple of good performances together down the stretch here before they reach the playoffs, but they're in at the minimum, and that's all you can ask for. At 13, we have the Chargers. Obviously, we saw them on Thursday night. Again, this list was made before Thursday night. This was supposed to come out on Tuesday. Complications there. But the Chargers here at 13, again, they fall out of the top 10 on this one after a brutal loss to the Bucs. I think it's a great Bucs team, and I only dropped them a couple spots here because there were other teams that I think would beat them in a way that they played, the way that they played the Bucs just showed me. That defense, I think, is really susceptible again to those deep passes, something the Broncos did not take advantage of in this game. The Chargers and Justin Herbert, I think, will make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a dangerous team, but if you think they're going to be that team that relies on their defense, you're dead wrong. Rams at 12. I love this Rams team. Not only can they win a shootout, as we saw 2 weeks ago, but they can win a gut physical game, right? 12-6 against the San Francisco 49ers in the rain. They win that one right after they win the opposite of it, 44-42. Huge win, both of those. It shows that they can play with any team, match their play style, and gut it out and win those games. It's incredibly impressive, and that's what the Rams need to do, coming back from a 1-4 start and dealing with all those early injuries. At 11, we have the Commanders. I like this Commanders squad a lot. Jaden Daniels showed me a lot on Sunday. He took a lot of sacks. Not what you want to see. But this is a Commanders team that will make the playoffs if they win a couple more games. They're just barely out right now. They're the first team in the NFC that has not clinched a playoff spot. They're just outside the top 10. They should make the playoffs this year. Bucs at 17, a huge performance for them. They're getting better. Mike Evans is going to be very dangerous down the stretch. He's chasing his 1,000-yard mark. He's had a couple of huge games now, back to back. He probably will make it there. They're feeding him. That offense is clicking. This is a scary Buccaneers team right now. You don't want to face them, and arguably, they might be the second best team in the NFC, maybe third. I don't know, especially with how injured those Lions are. You can talk about a path for them into the NFC Championship game and potentially the Super Bowl. And 9 is the Broncos. We didn't see what we wanted out of the Broncos on Thursday Night Football, but again, that defense is very impressive, right? They've kind of let up a lot of points over the last couple weeks. Bo Nix isn't a guy that I want to rely on to come back in those situations, but this is a Broncos team that's winning games. You can't deny that. They're well coached. They're not making those mistakes where they're shooting themselves in the foot. But that's now back-to-back weeks, including this one, where we've seen them lose or probably should have lost a game. Still in the top 10, though. At 8, we have the Steelers. TJ Watt is going to be healthy, and that is huge for this team. If he is ready to go, if he is healthy and playing, this is a Steelers team that's going to wreak havoc on the Baltimore Ravens. That game is for the division. If they win it, they are the division champions of the AFC North, and who saw that coming? In a stacked division like that, the Steelers have a chance to clinch it on Sunday. At 7, we have the Green Bay Packers, right? Jordan Love has stopped turning the ball over. And it's amazing how good this team is when he doesn't turn it over, right? When he's not putting that defense on a short field, those quick change situations. When he's playing safe football, this is a team that compete with just about anybody in the league. And they're a team that could be sneaky Super Bowl pick in the NFC as well. At 6, we have the Ravens. They went out there and destroyed the Giants. And that's not much of an accomplishment, right? It's the New York Giants. But the Baltimore Ravens go out there. They drop 35 points. 5 touchdowns from Lamar Jackson. Rashad Bateman cooks them deep twice. If they can play like that against the Steelers, if they can play like that going forward against just about any team, they're going to destroy them. I'd like to see some more Derrick Henry down the stretch. I'd like to see him get going before the playoffs. He's a guy that I think is going to be key for playoff football. They need to feed him the rock, and they need to remember that when he touches the ball 20 plus times in a game, they are undefeated. That's what it comes down to. Ravens at 6. Entering into the top 5, though, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. They fall a spot. I'm a little worried about Patrick Mahomes. He's played through high ankle sprains before, right? And it looks like he's going to play this week on Saturday. But this is a Kansas City Chiefs squad that does not have that same kind of offensive firepower as it did when he played through it when they made the Super Bowl, right? This is a Patrick Mahomes that needs to do a little bit more Supermaning, a little more escapability in the pocket, extend the plays than he was doing back then. He should be fine. I'm just a little bit worried about the Chiefs when he's hobbled. At 4, we have the Vikings, a huge win for them on Monday Night Football. They go out and they don't let a division opponent that was hungry for a win get to them. The defense plays great football. They get pressure on Caleb, and that offense with Sam Darnold continues to play good. I don't know how much I trust them down the stretch here, but still, this is a good, really good Minnesota Vikings team. The Lions at 3. Injuries are the key word for this team. They lose this game most likely because of injuries, right? David Montgomery goes down. 2 more key injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They're at 22 players on the IR now. That is a full starting roster, offense, defense. Now, most of that is on defense, which is bad. We see that defense start to get torched, and the offense, for its credit, can keep up. But when we're taking a look at the playoffs, you don't want to get into those shootout situations. It's not going to be easy for the Lions to control a lead, and it's going to be tough on that offense and the running game especially. At 2, we have the Bills. They get a big win against the Lions last week. Josh Allen, yet again, MVP-like performance. They've dropped 40-plus in 2 straight games. They're 1-1 in those games, but they've also given up 40-plus in each of those 2 games. That's scary. I want that defense to play better. That defense needs to play better because as good as Josh Allen is, you can't count on him going Superman in every single game. There's going to be a game where a defense slows his scrambling down a little bit, contains him, and he's not going to be able to do what he does in these last 2 weeks. We will see, though. I'm a little concerned about the Bills' defense. That's why they're not 1. But at number 1, it's the Eagles, right? Jalen Hurts figured out how to pass the ball. That's huge. The defense is the best in all of football. When they are clicking like this, Saquon, obviously at the running back position, he's one of the best in all of football. You have one of the best receiving duos in all of football, and Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback, right? This is a very scary team. They're my Super Bowl favorites out of the NFC just because of how good that defense is right now. And if that offense can play like they did last week, every week, they're basically unstoppable. But let me know what you think. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to game picks in the NFL. We have a full slate of games to go over. We'll talk about that and much more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.